What's up peeps, this is Todd and welcome back to my show. Today I'm going to be revealing my $600,000 line of credit. If that sounds good, let's hop into the video. Now let me put a quick disclaimer out there. I do have $600,000 in available credit, but I have a $0 balance. So I don't want to get it twisted here. It's not like I have $600,000 of debt. I have a $600,000 line of credit and I'm currently using none of it. So the first line of credit that I have is a home equity line of credit with BECU for $100,000. Now obviously I'm just sharing screenshots here and I didn't want to have my entire account number in that screenshot, so I'm showing you just some snippets. But if anyone thinks these numbers are fake or made up, I probably would have chosen a much more impressive number than $600,000 to go with. But I digress. I have a $100,000 home equity line of credit. It is at a $0 balance, and if I were to draw on it, I'd be paying 3% in interest. So now you guys might be thinking, well, why would I want to pay 3% interest on $100,000? What would be the reason for that? Well, there's actually a very good reason if you know how to use leverage in order to invest. Let's say, for example, that I wanted to buy a piece of real estate that cost $500,000. If I'm buying it as an investment property, I would have to put 20% down, so that is $100,000, which is exactly what my line of credit is. Now, I am in the very fortunate position that yes, I could take $100,000 of cash and I could put that down as my down payment. However, right now that $100,000 is making me a 15% return in the stock market. So essentially, I would have to liquidate $100,000 worth of stocks, meaning I would have to sell stock and I would have a taxable event. In other words, I'd have to pay taxes on the gain. Plus, when I pull out that $100,000, I'm no longer making a 15% return on that $100,000. So for me, I would actually much rather leave my $100,000 in the stock market where it's making me a 15% return and instead borrow $100,000 where I pay 3% interest to buy the real estate. Because I'm making 15% in the stock market and losing 3% on the home equity line of credit, I'm actually still ahead 12%, and I pretty much got into that real estate for free because I borrowed the money to buy the property. I didn't actually have to come up with the $100,000. Now, I would be incredibly strategic in that I would only buy a property where I could put tenants in there where the total monthly rent would be more than the mortgage, taxes, interest, and insurance, and whatever my home equity line of credit payment would be. I would rent out the property so that it covers all of those expenses and pays me between $1,500 and $2,000 of monthly cash flow. Now, the next line of credit that I have is from a bank called Canoe Credit Union. I have a line of credit here for $101,500. Essentially, it's the exact same thing where I would use this HELOC if I wanted to buy real estate, but I didn't want to liquidate my stock portfolio. Now, here's what's incredibly interesting. I mentioned that I could put up $100,000 to buy a property. I could fill that property with tenants so that they cover the mortgage, taxes, insurance, interest, and whatever my payback would be for the home equity line of credit. But I also mentioned that I could get $1,500 to $2,000 per month in cash flow, and that's actually on the low end. I do have a property where I'm getting $4,000 per month in cash flow. But let's assume for a second $2,000 per month in cash flow. So that would be $24,000 per year in profit, and again, my down payment was $100,000. So that would be a 24% cash on cash return. Except it's actually more than that, and here's why. The money that I used for the down payment wasn't actually my money. Instead, I took out a home equity line of credit for $100,000. In other words, I'm borrowing that money. It's not actually mine. I didn't have to work to earn that $100,000. I just borrowed it. So technically speaking, I personally have no money in the deal. The down payment was borrowed, and that borrowed down payment is being paid off by my tenants. So a 24% cash on cash return would be true if the $100,000 was actually mine that I put into it. But because I have $0 in the deal, the way you would calculate the cash on cash return is 24,000 divided by 0. Just like to get a 24% return, I would calculate 24,000 divided by $100,000. But when you take a number and divide it by 0, you can take any number in the world and divide it by 0, and there's only one of two answers. It's either undefined or infinity. In banking and in real estate, this is what's called an infinite return. Because I borrowed the money for the down payment, it wasn't my money, I didn't have to work to earn it, I borrowed the money in about 10 minutes. So I personally have $0 in the deal. The cash flow that I'm getting, i.e. the profit that the property produces every year, would be divided by my investment of 0. And because any number divided by 0 is infinity, I am getting an infinite return. So a smart way to use home equity lines of credit is to get an infinite return and to also make it so you don't have to liquidate any other investment that may be getting a better return than the low interest you'll be paying on that HELOC. Now my next line of credit is just under $90,000. This is another HELOC with very minimal interest. But making up the rest of my $300,000 line of credit is all of my credit cards. So I'm going to show you on the screen here briefly. I won't go through each one because I have so many cards. But as many of you guys know, I churn credit cards and I never actually close the account. I will open up a a credit card to take advantage of a new account bonus or new airline miles or something like that. I'll make sure I pay off their credit card so it's at a $0 balance, and then I'll put that credit card in a safe and never touch it again. So basically, I have all the credit cards that are under my name, and then next to it I have all the credit cards that are in my wife's name. We have credit cards that are combined, i.e. in both of our names, and our total credit limit from all of these cards is $335,400. And again, I have a $0 balance on these cards. I don't owe any money to credit card companies. I don't owe any money on HELOC. I'm not paying any interest or anything like that. My available credit in the amount of just over $600,000 has a $0 balance, so I'm not paying interest on any of it. I just have it available. Well, I hope this video was interesting to you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.